Welcome to Film Synopsis. Today movie title is Arrival. The film begins with Dr. Louise Banks talking to someone. We see Louise's moments with her daughter Hannah, from her birth, from her childhood, perhaps from cancer until her death at a young age. Louis is a linguist and professor of language. When the students' phones were switched off, he started his lecture in a small class. A student asks Louis to start the news. It is reported that at least 12 sites around the world, huge outbound ships are touching down. The next day, in his office in Louis, Colonel Weber tried to communicate with the aliens by using his language skills. At night, Weber shows up to take Louis to the base in a helicopter. He joined them and met Ian Donnelly, a theoretical physicist. The team arrived at the Montana landing site, while bases were set up at 11 other sites around the world and were constantly updating each other on any progress. Louis, Ian and a few others are brought to the top of the pod, where the lack of gravity allows them to stand in front of a glass-like barrier that holds the aliens behind. Two aliens appeared. They are surrounded by a fog and they appear as large tent animals, later called heptapods. Louis tries to communicate with them by writing human on a board. The animals emit a black cloud that forms a circular symbol. In a bold move, Louis removes his hazmat suit, trying to gain their trust. She presses the palm of her hand to the barrier. An animal stretches a limb and, in imitation of Louis's gesture, presses it against the obstacle. After Ian shakes off his hazmat suit, he decides to call the two aliens Abbott and Costello. Uncertainty over the purpose of the heptapod has led to panic, with tensions rising across the country as people have resorted to looting and riots. As the session progresses, the team records the symbols produced by the heptapod to determine which symbols Louis is teaching them to translate the words, love, time, etc. Later, when Louis touches them again, he begins to see Hannah's vision. Chinese General Chiang does not trust the aliens and deviates his team from the set plan by shutting down intelligence communications collected on other world sites. The Chinese site tries to communicate with the heptapods by playing mahjong. Louis begins to dream in alien language, while still seeing the memory of a child of Hannah. Louis shows pictures of his parents in a TV show he made. Hannah asks Louis if it's her fault that her father is gone, but Louis assures her that it's not. Currently, Louis asks the aliens who this girl is. The aliens provide a message that translates to use weapons, which creates more excitement among other sites. The Chinese give the aliens an ultimatum: they have 24 hours to leave, or the military will start a strike. Several other sites are ready to do the same, while the sites disconnect from each other. Louis tells Weber that they need to make sure the aliens know the difference between a weapon and a tool. Louis and Ian boarded the ship on their own, unaware that some soldiers had placed a C-4 bomb there. When they try to communicate with the heptapods, Abbott begins to create a message with hundreds of tiny, scattered symbols. As the bomb was about to explode, Abbott dropped Louis and Ian off the ship when it exploded. No one was seriously injured, but both were unconscious. Louis wakes up in base camp, suffering a minor injury. As soon as a strike is set, he and Ian Abbott run to decode the message. Ian speculates that there are too many signs for time, but he can't figure out exactly what that means. Agent Halpern, Michael Stuhlbarg, then tells others about how serious the situation is, that Russia is known to have killed one of their own to keep their intelligence secret. Louis rushes towards the ship, which sends him a small pod to take him aboard. He confronts Costello, who tells him that Abbott is dying in the explosion. Costello emits more black symbolic smoke, causing Louis to think of Hannah again. Costello then helps Louis understand that the language of the heptapod is their tool, or rather, a gift to man. By understanding their language, they are able to see into the future. It is revealed here that all the memories of his daughter Hannah of Louis were flash-forwards, not flashbacks. Costello explained that they were sent to give people their language so that they could help aliens within 3,000 years. 18 months later in the future, Louis and Chiang will face off, and he will express his gratitude for his work and efforts, which helped him understand what aliens' real purpose was. Louis picks up Halpern's satellite phone and communicates with Chiang on his personal number. He and Ian stop themselves when he tries to send a message telling Chiang about his wife's death. With the flood of reports from around the world, the Chinese military decided to stand up. Ships rise from all the ground and leave the earth in cloudy fog. Louis and Ian are watching them leave. Ian says the biggest thing about the whole thing was not meeting the aliens, it was meeting Louis. Louis then sees more of his own perspective with Hannah, but this time with Ian in the picture. They are going to be a couple who will eventually become Hannah's parents. At the present moment, Louis and Ian hug, and she tells him that she has forgotten what it was like to hold her. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos.